curious, how many of you have ever tried to balance a motorcycle horizontally on its kickstand before? Anyone? Yeah? Okay. I believe you, Tim. I was thinking no one would actually have done that, but I think you may have. Yes. Right. Probably none of us have tried to do that. But what about anyone try to balance a washing machine on one of its corners? You know, just like lift it up and hold it there. Okay, you have probably trying to do some work to it. Okay, fair enough. What about 5 different bottles facing different ways and different shapes, going all different directions, hanging from a square thing that's held by a string and then spinning around? Anyone try? No, that one? Yeah, that one I knew no one would do. There's this gentleman from Seoul, Korea. His name is Rocky Byun, who does just this with all sorts of things. He started out using rocks inside of a river and bouncing them on top of each other and taking all these shapes, and then that wasn't enough. After a while, then he took on doing telephone booths and chairs and people on motorcycles and balancing in them precarious ways. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating the many of things he can balance. He says once you have enough practice doing it, you kind of just figure out the center of gravity for things, and next thing you know, you just start balancing everything. And I think anytime we see people balancing well, either over a long distance or a long period of time, we're just amazed. At least I am anyway, because I know it's not something I'm good at. Right? It could be something as simple as a person on a unicycle and riding a unicycle, or it could be someone holding a one-handed handstand. It might even be someone on a tightrope between 2 buildings. Right? It could even be somebody that's on a tightrope that's sitting on a chair and balancing on the chair. In case you're wondering, since I went down the rabbit hole, the world record for that is 8 hours, 30 minutes, and 55 seconds, if you're looking to beat it. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. See, when you're balancing things like this, even if it's on a low-hanging slack rope, it takes 2 things. It takes your physical capabilities of being able to balance yourself, and it takes focus. It takes the ability to focus on it for a while so that you don't fall off. Right? I have great focus, but my physical capabilities are not quite there yet. I've never been good at balancing anyway, but it doesn't help that I'm much larger and my gravity is not very evenly dispersed. But even if you're able to balance well, you could balance for a good while, but if you lose focus, you will fall. You will fall to the ground, and you'll have to get back up and find your balance again and focus until you get it just right, and then you're good to go. See, I find this analogy important for my sermon today because I wanted to get a focus on the theme of Sabbath and rest. I've been meaning to preach on this for some time or find a way of doing this after a potluck, but it just seems like every opportunity kind of fell away, and this is the one chance I see a great time to do this. And again, the balancing analogy is important because having a Sabbath is a dedicated act of balancing that will bring dividends when done well. It's the balance between work and rest. It's holding those 2 things in tension that allows us then to find our center and find peace. But to understand this more, I want to first look at Scripture to understand who the Sabbath is meant for. Our lessons talk about that today in Isaiah, and then what we'll do is we'll look at Sabbath together through Scripture. In our passage from Isaiah, we see the word Sabbath come up 3 times in 8 verses. But each time it's used with a different group of people. The first group of people is used within the context of the Jews. Isaiah was a prophet. He's speaking to the Jews, so this makes sense. Verse 2, "Blessed is the man who does this, and the Son of Man who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath, not profaning it, and keeps his hands from doing any evil." Right? Again, you, Israelites, blessed are you if you do this. The second group of people we use this context with is with the eunuchs. Verse 4, "For thus says the Lord to the eunuchs who kept my Sabbaths, who chose those things that please me and hold fast my covenant. I will give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name better than the sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off." Without going into eunuchs in great detail, which I cut out a large section of this on my sermon, basically what we see here are those people who were exiled from the worship of God. Eunuchs were not allowed to worship with the Jews and were considered outcasts. And yet God in this moment seems to bring them in. Finally, the third group of people we see are the foreigners. Verse 6, and the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, to minister to him, to love the name of the Lord, and to be his servants, everyone who keeps the Sabbath and does not profane it, and holds fast my covenant. These I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. The third category basically defines us as modern Christians. Non-Jews who were grafted in, Gentiles who were brought into this covenant promise, who now have to live according to God's laws and his ways he's designed the world. Right? And when we're grafted into that promise, we continue to bear fruit through our works that is both evident of our salvation and participation in it. All this points to the reality that no matter who you are, a Jew, a Gentile, or even the perceived unwelcomed or enemies of God, all of creation was meant to enter into Sabbath, and those who follow God are to model it. So while the Sabbath might not be new to the Jew, it certainly would have been to any other group of people. To better understand a Sabbath, then, we must seek out where it originates. The Sabbath begins in creation. For 6 days God worked, and on the seventh he rested. He blessed it and consecrated and made it a day of rest. From before sin had entered the world, work and rest were a fundamental reality in which we would relate to God and his creation. Both were given place in the garden before sin ever entered in the world. Work is good, but so is rest. This is why Jesus even refers back to the Sabbath. He says, the Sabbath was not made for man, but man for the Sabbath. Sabbath then is a creational act and one more thing that sin has corrupted. The next pivotal moment we see the Sabbath introduced is in the Old Testament, which is in Exodus 20. God implemented the Sabbath as a part of the Ten Commandments to a newly freed people. But this law was not a law put in place simply to combat the way they had been treated in Egypt, but a way to draw them back into the created norm God had put in place. What we see then in Exodus 20 is an explicit command for God's people put in terms they could understand. I'm going to read to you Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But on the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your sons or your daughters or your male servant or your female servant or your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. As slaves in Egypt, they probably did not have a day of rest in their rhythms of work. They were forced to work day in and day out to build as the Egyptians wanted them to build. Right? In addition to that, when things got challenging or difficult with them, the Egyptians decided, well, let's give them back their Sabbath. No, they made their work harder. They made their work even harder, causing it to be doubly unjust. And then after 400 years of non-stop work, God led them through 40 years of holy work and holy rest. 6 days of working and laboring and 1 day of rest, wandering through the wilderness. It took a nation of people that longed to readjust to their intended rhythms of work and rest. And even then, their work was actually limited. They did not have to provide themselves food. Why? Because God rained down manna from heaven. They did not have to go find water. God forced water out of a rock to provide for them in the wilderness. Now, before we talk about the details of the Sabbath, I think there's an important thing we must do to understand rest. And that is to first understand what work is. See, if we don't have a proper understanding of work, then we won't understand what it means to rest from our work. So here's how I'm going to define work for us. Work is any action or effort applied to create profit for yourself or others. From my experience, this is where this is where we begin to broaden the conversation around work so far that it becomes unhelpful. If we broaden the definition of work to any activity that exerts effort, then we both diminish the value of the work we do in our jobs or at home, and simultaneously view anything we do as a burden and justify working our jobs more because it's all work anyway and never take a day of rest. Taking care of my kids, sweeping, mopping, doing laundry, caring for animals, cooking, driving, turning on a light switch, or even walking then can become work. When taken too far, we either allow ourselves to justify working nonstop, right? Or what we can do is we can take advantage of our rest throughout the rest of the week such that we never find rest on a full day and have then found ourselves leading to sloth the other 6 days. This is probably the biggest trap of our time. In our world today, we have so many things to distract us, to ease our difficulties, to enjoy, or to simply give us comfort, that work has now become doubly hard. We have become slaves to comfort and an easy life. This is why we must learn to balance both work and rest, work and non-working. Resting is good when you've been given a day to rest, but when we abuse our rest during the week, the day we have set aside for rest now becomes a burden of work because we did not pay the price earlier in the week. But again, the opposite can come true as well. We work so hard and so long that we miss out on resting, and we miss out on enjoying the things God created for us to enjoy. I recently was reading a book by one of my favorite authors, Brant Hansen, and he was talking about a time he was in Japan, and he was a part of this conversation with this family in this small group, and they started going around the room and asking the question, what is it that you regret, or what's something you miss? The husband in the household, without even seeming to think or about his response, just kind of blurted out, I miss my kids. I have missed my kids. And he started weeping. And him and his wife went into the other room and they talked it out for a while. See, in Japan and in their culture, working is life. So it would be common for men in the household to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, maybe even more sometimes, because their purpose in life was found in work. And he had worked so much, he actually didn't even know his own children. He didn't see them often. He didn't know what they liked. He didn't know how to enjoy them. He missed his family. And in that small moment, he recognized just how much his work had taken over his life, so much so that he missed the blessings that God had given him. Let's take this one step farther. See, it's not just you that needs to rest, but your family as well. Your supervisor, and your employees if you have them. This is why in Exodus it talks about the many different groups involved. Your sons and daughters need a day of rest. Your animals, the animals that would work and labor for you, the ones that would plow the field, they too would need a day of rest. Your servants, your employees, male and female, needed a day of rest. The foreigner that is in your midst, the sojourner traveling with you for a season, needed a day of rest. You too needed a day of rest. Is all God's creation supposed to work? Absolutely. But are they also to rest? Even more so. So let's think about this a little bit more in terms of our work life that we face today. To do this, I want to do two things. First, I want to talk about those things that we have to do that is work, but is not easily put within the framework of a job for profit. Second, I'm going to give several different scenarios and speak to each of them and the work they involve, but as well as the pitfalls that come with each role. See, no matter who you are, part of your work will look like stewarding the things God has graciously given you and that you have taken responsibility for. Your home, your car, your body, your children, your animals, your garden, your toys, your hobbies, your furniture. The list goes on and on and on. All of it belongs to God, but it's been given to you to steward and to be a blessing to you and to others. I cannot help get groceries for my family or another needy family or a neighbor to an important appointment if my car is not running or functioning. Heck, I couldn't even get to work if that was the case. I cannot open my home to the stranger or to a family of God if it is in danger for them to come inside or if there's nowhere for them to relax and find peace. See, we all have work to do at home that will provide peace and rest. And we will also be hospitable to all of those who enter into our homes. See, no one gets paid to clean their own home or do their own dishes. However, you and those who enter your home will discover peace, joy, gratitude, love, and rest when the place you live in is properly ordered, maintained, and cared for. You get paid in dividends that are greater than any sum of money. That work is necessary day in, day out to provide a sanctuary for all those who enter in, including you. When you work hard to steward your home and the many blessings God has given you, you will be rewarded with things you didn't know you could have. So then what about our actual jobs? Well, your work might look like a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday. You clock in, you clock out, you go home, and that's it. Your work is easily defined by the hours you've been given, by those in authority over you, and you know when you're working and you know when you're not working. I sometimes long for those days. I think I should get my own little punch clock in my office, maybe. That might help me. Just clock in and clock out, even though it doesn't work that way. But here's the problem. If you don't take seriously the times when you're not working and continue to steward what you have, your work and leisure will become so muddled that you will not be able to find rest when you need it most. Remember, we're made for one day of rest, not two. This means that maybe the day off from your job should be to work your home, to care for it, to steward it well. That way, when you are at your day of rest, you don't have to worry. You can find peace, right? It's true if you're single, a working spouse, or someone who stays at home. No matter your situation, you will have these things to take care of. So take care of them on your day off. Your work might also look like a salary position or a business owner where you're responsible for anything and everything that comes your way whenever someone else asks it of you. If you have a job like this, you will need firm, unapologetic boundaries. This means you must not check your work email or take calls at certain times or on certain days. Put the phone down. It will be okay. You'll have to work harder to maintain your boundaries and to seek rest, but when you do so, you will be rewarded. Right? You may even need to go into business with someone else so you can defend each other's days off. Right? We've all run across businesses that are closed on the one day that we reach out to them, but we simply adjust. If that person wants our business, we'll just make time to call them again when we're open. Or if we really need it done, we'll find someone else that is. Right? But closing a business for a day or not showing up for a day in a salary position is good for you and good for others. It will show to others that you trust God to provide for you and your family rather than expecting people in this world to do so. The only one you are beholden to is God. It might also mean having a difficult conversation with your supervisor. No one will set the boundaries for you except yourself. You must be the one to do it. You must be willing to sacrifice being uncomfortable and calling your supervisor to a higher standard because guess what? They need rest too. Will there be times that it's absolutely no way around it? Probably. I experience this constantly in my own work, and yet I constantly fight nonstop for my Sabbath. I keep a hard boundary on it because I know I need it. But the emergency shouldn't be happening week after week after week after week. It's no longer an emergency, but poor planning. You must continue to fight. Your work might also look like going to school and seeking higher education. You'll have time to study, to go to classes, to write, and to read, and to do all of that work, and to live into them. It's good. Stay disciplined. It will take you farther. It will provide for you well in your career. But make sure you aren't working the other 2 days you're not going to school. It's easy to fill the extra space with an actual job, but resist it as much as possible. Continue to have one day off where you do not read, you do not write, you do not study, you do not go, but instead you rest with God. It will teach you early on that God will provide for you always, and the boundaries you replace around your work will make you more effective and efficient. See, when you are in school, your work is to study and to learn. You may need to work as well, and that's all right, but learn to keep a Sabbath even now. Our work could also look like working from home, managing, stocking, cleaning, and nurturing your space. All of these things are good work, but they too need boundaries. And it's harder to find when they're always around you. But it might mean letting the house get a little extra dirty one day out of the week. It's going to be okay. I tell my wife this often. It might also look like avoiding chores that feel like absolute work to you. For example, I will never clean a bathroom on my Sabbath. I will refuse. I would rather go away and then run away than clean a bathroom on my Sabbath because I just don't like cleaning bathrooms. I will clean them, just not on my Sabbath. But what I will do on my Sabbath is I will vacuum. I'll put dishes away. I'll clean dishes. I'll sweep and I'll mop. I'll even change the oil on my car with thanksgiving. See, none of the actions feel like work to me because it gives me peace of mind. It's an enjoyable break from the other regular rhythms of my work. And it allows me to stretch my gratitude, which is a great Sabbath practice. How many of you have given thanks for clean floors this week? You'll have to make sure that you finish the 6th day of work, knowing that on the 7th you will enjoy and delight in your home instead of feeling trapped by it. Right? All of these forms of work are good and help us enjoy how God has designed us. But then what about rest? What about your actual Sabbath? The best definition of Sabbath I've run across to is this. Sabbath is when you pray and when you play. That's it. It's when you pray and when you play. See, if I viewed taking a circular piece of plastic, throwing it through the air, and chasing it around like a dog, hole after hole after hole, I would never go outside and play disc golf again because it was work. But it's not work to me. It's enjoyable. It's a stupid game. It's silly, but it's enjoyable. I get to play outdoors. I get to be in creation. And the same thing goes for other sports, right? Soccer, basketball, pickleball, whatever it is. Right? Playing disc golf for me is the opposite of work, even though it involves working my body. Yeah, there's a lot of frustration when I miss all of my putts, but that's okay. But it also brings a lot of peace, a lot of happiness, and a lot of joy for me. I have extended times of silence and prayer. I'll sometimes just go out on a morning hike by myself and just walk in silence. I don't have headphones in. I don't have any noise around me if I can help it. I just go and I walk. And I listen and I pray. And I offer the same thing to my wife, Elizabeth. I will gladly stay home, get on the floor with Evelyn, my daughter, and play with her until she's wiped out, while Elizabeth can go out get time to herself as well and rest. What a joy it is to play with my daughter. That time allows me to connect with God in ways that I so desperately need and help me with the rest of my week. There might also be times I just take a nap. I don't have time nor the privilege to take a nap any of the other 6 days of the week I work. Trust me, I don't. I really don't take a nap. Don't worry. My Sabbath then becomes the one time where I can just lay down, I can close my eyes, and rest, literally. See, when I take a Sabbath, it's a day where I'm refreshed for the other days of work ahead of me, and I do not have room for otherwise. When I pray and when I play, I get to enjoy God and all that He has given me. Then, when I go back to work, the week gets easier and I find myself getting more done because I wasn't worried about providing for myself. I wasn't worried about accomplishing all that I needed to get done or all that I thought I needed to get done. I actually gave it away to God and trusted that those things that needed to be done would be done. Taking a Sabbath means I show God not just with my words that He is my Lord, but also with my actions. Remembering that God made the Sabbath for you and your good. Everything in this world will tell you that it's not possible and that it won't do you any good. You must work as working for the Lord and not for men, and rest. And rest. For you are not trying to please men, but to grow closer to understanding God and His creation and the way He intended you to live. And here's the tricky thing with the Sabbath. I can't tell you what will give you rest, but I can tell you what won't. Watching reels endlessly or having no limits on social media or screens will not give you rest. Spending hours looking at news, trying to solve all the global issues that politicians are so convinced that are urgent and needing to be solved today will not give you rest. Working 7 days because you're afraid God will not provide for you will not give you rest. Trying to outwork your coworkers because you're seeking advancement will not do you any good. Learning to live within your means, learning to live the way God intended you, to give up your right to provide for yourself will give you rest. If there's any advice I can give you about a Sabbath, it's to make the time to pray and to play.